know those films that look like a dream but were a complete nightmare behind the scenes? The 1957 film The Prince and the Showgirl is the perfect example of that. It stars luminous Marilyn Monroe and the ever-dashing Sir Laurence Olivier in a romantic comedy set in Edwardian London. Sounds perfect, right? Well, not quite. The movie was beautiful on the surface, full of dazzling gowns, lavish sets, and two of the biggest stars in Hollywood and Britain of all time. But behind the curtain, the tension was palpable, and the story more interesting than the film itself. So today, we're diving into the making of The Prince and the Showgirl, a film where glamour and chaos dance together hand in hand, and one that marked a turning point in Marilyn Monroe's life and career. So let's start with the story. Set during King George V's coronation in 1911, The Prince and the Showgirl follows an uptight Eastern European royal, the Prince Regent of Carpathia, played by Sir Laurence Olivier, who becomes infatuated with an American chorus girl named Elsie Marina, played by none other than Marilyn Monroe. What begins as a light-hearted dinner invitation turns into an unexpected evening of misunderstandings, clashes, and yes, ultimately, beautiful romance. Elsie is refreshingly direct and funny. The prince is stiff, old-fashioned, and honestly a little full of himself. But like all good rom-coms, their differences melt away, revealing a tender, if not improbable, connection. It's not groundbreaking in plot, but it's elegant and fun, or at least it looks that way. The film was based on The Sleeping Prince, a play by Terence Rattigan. Laurence Olivier had starred in the West End production opposite his wife, Vivien Leigh, but when it was time to film the movie, Vivien Leigh was out. Why? Because she was 43 and was considered too old by the time the film was made. Funny that she was too old, but Laurence Olivier wasn't. Anyway, in her place, Marilyn Monroe. Olivier's reasons were partly commercial. He was directing this. This was his first non-Shakespearean film that he was directing, and he wanted it to be a huge success. And Marilyn, while she was at the top of her game, this was post Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, post The 7-Year Itch. She was it. She was Hollywood's girl. What Olivier didn't anticipate was that hiring Monroe meant inviting method acting, emotional complexity, and a very different kind of process than he was used to. And that was just the beginning. Here's the part of the story that people often overlook. This was Marilyn Monroe's first film under her own production company, Marilyn Monroe Productions. She had fought hard to escape her studio contract, and she wanted creative control and to play roles that had more meat to their bones than just the ditzy blondes that she'd been typecast in, because Marilyn Monroe was a smart lady. This meant that she came to set with a very clear idea of how she wanted to play Elsie, not as the ditzy blonde, but as someone with heart and integrity. And to help her get there, her acting coach, Paula Strasberg, was by her side every day. Every day. To Olivier, who came from the British stage and classical technique, it was baffling. He was used to rehearsal, blocking, and control, but Marilyn was chasing truth in her performance, moment to moment, and often showed up late, emotionally overwhelmed, and unwilling to perform until she felt emotionally ready. To say the two clashed is putting it mildly. At one point, Olivier reportedly snapped at Marilyn and told her to just be sexy. That one line, it stuck with her. She felt dismissed and reduced to just her appearance, something that she was desperately trying to move past. Because of this, their working relationship became strained. Marilyn found Olivier rigid and patronising. Olivier found Marilyn unpredictable and infuriating. But the irony, the on-screen chemistry between them weirdly worked. Tension between the characters often mirrored the real-life tension between the actors. But that gave the film an edge it might not have had otherwise. According to actress Jean Kent, Monroe never arrived on time, never said a line the same way twice, seemed completely unable to hit her marks on set, and couldn't and wouldn't do anything without her acting coach, Paula Strasberg. Olivier reportedly showed a strong dislike for Paula, whom he evicted from the set at one point, causing Monroe to refuse to continue shooting until she returned. While Monroe and Olivier were locked in their Cold War, the rest of the cast and crew did their best to keep things afloat. Sybil Thorndike, who played the Queen Dowager, reportedly treated Marilyn with kindness and support, one of the few on set to do so. Of course, the shoot went massively over schedule, with reports of multiple takes for the most simplest of scenes, and one crew member later said it was like filming in a hurricane made of silk. But just quickly, I'm a massive royal history buff and Hollywood history buff, so this is a bit of a fun fact for me personally, because while filming The Prince and the Showgirl in London, Marilyn Monroe met Queen Elizabeth II at the Royal Command performance in October 1956. They were both 30 at the time, two global icons worlds apart. Marilyn attended with her husband, Arthur Miller, while the Queen was accompanied by her sister, Princess Margaret. According to one royal insider, the Queen even became a fan of Marilyn's films. Photos of them together are pure history. One woman had only 6 years left to live, the other 6 decades. The film was finally released in 1957. It opened to mixed reviews. Some critics praised Monroe's performance and charm and Olivier's sophistication. Others found the film slow, overly staged, and lacking the spark of a true romantic comedy. The audiences came in droves, especially overseas. The film performed really well internationally, and Marilyn Monroe earned herself a BAFTA nomination for Best Foreign Actress. It helped her earn respect in Britain, where she was seen not just as a sex symbol, but as a serious performer trying to grow. For Olivier, well, it was a learning experience, to say the least. Reportedly driven so mad by Monroe's difficult behaviour that he practically abandoned directing for the screen, only returning to make Three Sisters in 1970. Oh, and did I mention that Marilyn was newly married to playwright Arthur Miller during production? The couple had hoped this film would be their honeymoon as an escape from Hollywood. Tensions mounting on set, Miller feeling increasingly shut out, the trip to England became a pressure cooker for poor Marilyn. Marilyn often leaned on Paula Strasberg, even more than her husband, and that led to tensions in their marriage before it had even really started. Behind the glamorous press photos of the two of them together was a woman who was emotionally exhausted and creatively stifled. So fast forward to 2011 and the story gets another life. My Week with Marilyn, starring Michelle Williams, is based on the diaries of Colin Clark, a young production assistant on The Prince and the Showgirl. Clark claimed to have developed a special bond with Marilyn during filming, even suggesting a brief romance. Whether or not that's entirely true, who knows? But the film does offer a unique window into Monroe's fragility, her warmth, and her desperate need to be seen as an artist, not just an object. And I think Michelle Williams did such a wonderful job playing Marilyn Monroe. And it was this film that led me to go watch The Prince and the Showgirl. I was 16 when My Week with Marilyn came out, and I hadn't seen The Prince and the Showgirl before. I was young. I had always dismissed it as kind of not good. So I watched My Week with Marilyn, and then I went and watched The Prince and the Showgirl. And I fell in love with the movie. I loved it so, so much. And it was from that, because that was how I discovered Laurence Olivier. I was like, who is this handsome gentleman? I kind of am in love with him. And it was from that I went and watched Wuthering Heights, and the rest is history. But I have a really special place in my heart for The Prince and the Showgirl. I think I know that, this movie's remembered more for what happened off set, off screen, not off set, on set, but off screen, than what's on screen. And I know it's neither of their best movies. It's not the best movie of all time. It doesn't change the world by any means. But every time I watch it, I really enjoy it. I think Marilyn has such a really nice quality about her in this. I think they had a really great chemistry, which is so strange considering how much they hated each other. And it shows what great actors they were, that even though they literally despised each other, you don't feel it. You just feel this sizzle on screen. And I think maybe, as I said earlier, maybe their tension worked in this instance anyway. I think in a lot of ways, what was happening on set translated on screen and made this film seem more human. I'd love to hear your thoughts on The Prince and the Showgirl, whether you enjoy it or dislike it, or what do you think of what happened behind the scenes. I think it really showed Marilyn's fragility and distrust of herself as an artist. But I also love that this was her only film that she made under her production company. And I often think how far she could have gone if she was given the freedom to do it. But misogyny and sexism and so many other things come into play that stopped her from achieving her full potential. And remember that classic cinema is anything but old news. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I've got so many more stories to tell, and I will see you next week for another old Hollywood movie review.